70,000 people are here, and then Bob Dylan is the reason for it.
Inspired by the true story.
For anyone who's going to hold your attention on a stage, you have to kind of be a freak.
Are you a freak?
Hope so.
And starring Timothée Chalamet as Bob Dylan. He defied everyone.
Turn it down!
Play loud!
To change everything.
Make some noise, BD.
Timothée Chalamet, Edward Norton, Elle Fanning, Monica Barbaro. A complete unknown. Only in theaters Christmas Day. Rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent.
This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and NIL Game Changers. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Brewers Outlet, Sunbury Motor Company, and Purdy Insurance. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
This half hour brought to you by Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury, the beverage supermarket, imports, domestics, microbrews, the best selection of beer anywhere. Wine coolers, water, soft drinks, snacks, lots and lots of snacks. They roast their peanuts fresh and hot every day. 6 great flavors of slushies, and let's face it, you need a bailout on gifts right now. Brewers Outlet gift card is the bailout. And they also have ready-to-drink cocktails like High Noon, Crown Royal, Jack Daniels. And the pickle bar led by the Barrels and the Dills, indeed second to none, all at Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street in Sunbury, the beverage supermarket. Very pleased to be joined by not only one of the best of the business, but one of the great guys out there, Mike DeCourcy. Mike, welcome back. Great to have you with us.
How are you, Steve?
I'm doing well. It's interesting because somebody asked me about getting ready to do this college football playoff. They said, what's this like for you? I said, I've done the NCAA tournament. No offense, it's sort of the same thing. How do you view it?
It is, except it took 100 years to get there.
Oh, goodness gracious.
It only took basketball like 30 years after the game was invented to figure out maybe we should play this on the field.
Yeah.
It took football a lot longer. So while I share your sentiment regarding the technical aspect of it, the emotional aspect of it, that we're finally here, is significant. I've been frustrated. I started covering college football on a daily basis in 1984 with the Nittany Lions for the Pittsburgh Press.
That's right.
So I've been around this sport a long time, and I trace my origin story relative to college football following back to 1968 when my folks, Irish Catholic, took me to my grandfather's house to watch Notre Dame Purdue, and that was where sort of college football was introduced to me. Wow. And so I've been waiting almost 60 years for football to do it right. And while there's technical aspects of the playoff arrangement that I would tweak, they're doing it right. It's on the field, and the path to enter is defined. If you win your conference and you're one of the big conferences, you're in. And that's something that has been lacking for far too long.
Well, people have said to me that, why haven't they had a playoff until now? And I said, well, college football's biggest problem is that college football gets in the way of college football. I
love it. That is true. That is absolutely true. I've often said that college football is addicted to malarkey. The conversation around the sport for so long has been bigger than the sport itself, which is really weird because the actual experience of being at a game at one of the venues especially the ones that really revere it, like Beaver Stadium or the Horseshoe or the Big House or Bryant-Denny Stadium or any of the big ones. And it's still great when you go down a level like to Nippert Stadium, what it is now in Cincinnati. When I first moved to Cincy, it was like 4,000 people. Now it's filled to capacity nearly 40. The game is so great. And the people who ran the sport would never get out of the way and let the game be the star.
Yes. Absolutely. That's exactly right. I mean, just get out of the way and let them play. Here we go. Let's have some fun with it. People love it. Is there a game that you will be at this weekend, or will you have other assignments?
Actually, my editor asked me if I could do the Penn State game, and I would have loved to drive up for that. But I have Big Ten Network studio on Saturday. We've got like 4 or 5 games on BTN on Saturday. So it's going to be a busy day, but we'll have the TVs on, certainly watching the Knits and watching the Buckeyes, and it'll be a fabulous day.
Back in the early days of the NCAA tournament when they expanded, home courts were used. Now that's not happening in the NCAA basketball tournament. In this case, the opening 4 games are home fields. What's your thought on that?
I think it's necessary for sure for the first round, and I think that it would be better, honestly. I've never been a big fan of the bowls. I always thought the bowls existed for the bowls and not really to promote college football. They've existed to promote the region in which they were staged, and I thought that they were not good for college football. That was always the excuse. The bowls have been good to college football. No, the bowls have been good to the bowls. So I would really prefer that the quarterfinal round be on the seeds of the four bye teams. Now, if it were me, I would change the formula, as I would in the NFL as well. I believe that a conference championship or a division championship should get you into the show.
Agreed.
Without a doubt.
Yep.
But you shouldn't be seeded if you're Arizona State and you're, I think, Clemson, I guess, would be the best example. They're 16th, I think, in the rankings, and they're seeded high. No, I'm sorry, not Clemson, because they didn't get a bye, but Arizona. It's Arizona State. 12.
Yep.
Yeah, they think they were 12, and they are seeded 4th. Now, we don't need that. I mean, as someone who followed the Steelers, I think anyone who listens who follows the Steelers remembers 2011 when the Denver Broncos were 8-8, and the Steelers had to travel to Denver and play there. That wasn't right. The Steelers were 12-4, I think, that year. It's nonsense. You should get in because you won that division or you won that conference, but you shouldn't be seeded over teams that accomplished more.
I absolutely agree with that because I feel strongly that you go 1 through 12 as to who made it. You're winning the conference gets you one of the 12 spots. Now let's see where you fall in the pecking order after that. Giving a bye is nice, but I think it's got to be a 1 through 12. For example, you can win, let's just pick one, the ACC championship in basketball. You may be on the 2-seed line.
Right.
Right. I mean, basketball already does it. There's so many things basketball does that football needs to follow, and that's one of them, I think, right there. Yeah,
you could be a non-conference champion. You could be a team that did not win a conference championship. Pitt in 2009 wound up with. They were a fabulous team, but the way the schedule broke, they wound up without the regular season championship. Then they did not win in the conference tournament, so they had no conference championship. And then they got into the NCAA tournament as a 1 seed because they were one of the best teams. Right. And the schedule just sort of fell so that they didn't win a league title. But the committee knew, and they were rightly seeded 1, and they didn't end up making the Final Four, but they came within 4.5 seconds. So they obviously were good enough to justify being a 1 seed.
You mentioned you had a chance to go to Penn State SMU. Is there any game above all that intrigues you, piques your interest?
Well, I mean, I'm one of those people that when people say which one would you watch, and I'd say I'll watch them all because I love the game. Mm-hmm. But I think the one that's fascinating is Indiana-Notre Dame because so many people have derided Indiana's schedule, while not many people, other than me, have derided Notre Dame's schedule. And I only did so in response to those who criticized Indiana's. I'm like, look over here, people. Yeah. It's about the same. There's not much difference. Why are you picking on them? Well, that's because the college football establishment, that's another difference between football and basketball that the football people would be wise to adopt, is that in basketball, somebody comes along that hasn't been there before. In basketball, people who follow the NCAA tournament look at St. Peter's and say, hey, that's pretty cool. What they're doing, that's pretty cool. And Indiana comes in, and it's like, you don't belong here because you've never been any good before. And so they're getting a lot of guff about their schedule. But Notre Dame, which has been here all along, as I mentioned before, no one's looking at their schedule. They went to A&M and won there. Yep. Not a great team. And the rest of it's been a lot of mid-level ACC teams and the service academies and a okay but not very good SC team that they didn't really blow out. So, I mean, they may smoke the Hoosiers. I don't think that's what's going to happen, but I haven't really liked the discourse around the Indiana program once the playoff became a likelihood and then ultimately an inevitability.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. Can I give you just a quick read from you on what do you think of the college basketball season so far?
Yeah, I think it's been really interesting. The SEC has, I'll tell you this, the SEC, first of all, they're excellent. They're very good.
Yes, they are.
It's a terrific league this year, but also scheduled. Whoever put the SEC schedule together, and whether that was all done independently or whether there was a guiding force from the conference office, has been brilliant. I mean, teams like Florida, which weren't 100% sure, that they thought they'd be pretty good. There's not been a lot of risk taken there. Yeah. They've played good teams, but not great ones. Arizona, which hasn't been very good. Carolina, good brand names. That's an old Alabama trick in football. Nick Saban would always play Florida State when they were down, or Miami when they were down, or someone like that. They were really good at finding the team that had a great brand but not a great team. Right. And so with a lot of the SEC teams, they've done that. Their other advantage has been that they scheduled the ACC in a challenge series and in multiple other non-conference games, and they have just obliterated them. The ACC is really poor, and it's really interesting, Steve, because the last couple of years, the ACC's done pretty well in the NCAA tournament and then has complained, well, why aren't we getting more teams in the NCAA tournament? Well, because in November and December, you didn't win many games against outside competition. And they kept complaining about that, and then along comes this year, and they've been worse than ever. This is probably the worst non-conference performance in ACC history. And I don't know where that leads them in March, but it doesn't seem very promising for them.
Agreed across the board. The floater continues. You know, we know 64, now 68 has worked beautifully for such a long time, but they're floating 72 or 76. Your thoughts on either one, and of course the possibility of staying the same. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I think it's probably inevitable that it's going to go up. I hate it. I don't hate it in the way that I hated the concept of 96, which nearly came to fruition in 2010 when the NCAA was in a position of needing to generate $750 million ish to match what they had been getting, and the membership expected that it not go down, and CBS was saying, look, we don't have that anymore. And ESPN said, yeah, we'll give it to you, but we want 96 teams. And so we got pretty close. And then Turner came along and saved the day, and I don't think they've ever gotten the appropriate credit for preserving this great event. Now, with the main problem is that the major conferences, the conferences that have grown, are concerned that with bigger membership, with 18 in the Big Ten and 16 in the SEC, they wonder if they're going to get sufficient representation. I think the SEC is going to flirt with getting a dozen teams out of their 16. It may not quite get to that. Yeah. And if they do, maybe that calms it down. Maybe it doesn't. But I'm hopeful that it would. If it goes to 72, it's livable. If it goes to 76, it doesn't damage the tournament as much as it does the regular season.
Yeah.
Steve, I'm right in the crucible of that with the bracket projections, and so I know how much those games matter as you get closer to the end of the season. And if we're adding in just about anybody that can bounce a ball 3 times, it's not the same consequence, and so people don't get tuned in as much.
Right. Agreed. My only thing about this is that, okay, 72, I'm palatable. The thing is, why would I go 76 now? Because I just think they're going to do it anyway at some point down the road. Might as well just do it now.
Well, I believe that if you can delay pain for as long as you can. I mean, like
that's
I said,
true.
We were almost at 96.
Oh,
it's been 15 years now. We've had 15 great tournaments, 14 because we didn't have it 2020, but 14 great tournaments because we booted that can the way the best punters do football. And so I'm hopeful that if 76 is the number, then let's delay that as long as possible.
I gotcha. Nope, I'm with you. If you can somehow keep the wolf at the gate, that's good. Hey, thanks so much. You're the best, Mike. Appreciate it. Appreciate our friendship. It's great to have you on.
All right, my pleasure, Steve. Happy holidays to you and everybody up in the valley, and enjoy the game on Saturday.
Happy holidays, Mike. The great, legendary Mike DeCourcy joining us on the show today. And we'll wrap it up in a moment on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Party time, game time, or just fun time. Doesn't matter what time it is because it's Brewers Outlet time. The Beverage Supermarket has the area's largest beer selection. Imports, microbrews, ciders, and domestics. Pick from over 100 ice-cold 12-packs and dozens of 24-ounce singles. Soda, snacks, hot sauces, fresh roasted peanuts. Make it one-stop party shopping, and don't forget the pickle bar. So whatever you're celebrating or just doing it up, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury wants to see you. And thank you for your years of patronage.
The holidays are a time of year to celebrate and reflect. Reflect on the past year, a year filled with challenges and uncertainty. Uncertainty that bred resilience and hope. Hope for healing, change, new beginnings, and unity. United as one people, one community, by one mission, to safeguard and protect what matters most. From all of us at Purdy Insurance, we wish you health, happiness, and joy this holiday season and success in the new year.